The great hall of the Galactic Council fell silent as Elder Thorn walked to the center platform. His gray skin wrinkled with age, but his 4 eyes were sharp and clear. 2,000 representatives from across the galaxy watched him. Some had traveled for months to attend this emergency meeting. Honored members of the council, Elder Thorn began, his voice echoing through the massive chamber. For 10,000 years we have kept peace among our civilizations. Today, that peace faces a new threat. The floating screens around the chamber showed images of a blue-green planet. Our scout ships have found signals from this unexplored region, Elder Thorn continued. We have discovered a species calling themselves humans. They have moved from their homeworld to nearby planets in mere centuries. Not the thousands of years it took the rest of us. Worried whispers spread through the hall. Fast development usually meant danger in the galaxy. Show us more, demanded the representative from the Marin Federation, a race of tall, thin beings with skin like tree bark. Elder Thorn nodded. The screens changed to show cities on Earth, bases on Mars, and stations orbiting planets. These humans have spread quickly. They fight among themselves constantly, yet advance their technology at an alarming rate. In another part of the galaxy, far from the council chambers, Admiral Reed stood on the bridge of the Earth battleship Defiant. At 45, Reed had spent half her life in space. Her short black hair showed touches of gray, and the scars on her hands told stories of hard work and survival. Admiral, we've picked up unknown ships near Titan again, reported Officer Jones, looking up from his screen. Same pattern as last week. They watch, then disappear when our patrols get close. Reed frowned. The United Earth government had hoped first contact with aliens would be peaceful. The watching ships didn't seem friendly. Show me, she ordered. The screen lit up with images of sleek vessels. Unlike any human design, they moved with impossible grace, appearing and vanishing without warning. They're studying us, Reed said quietly, learning our strengths and weaknesses. Back in the council chambers, Director Moss of Galactic Intelligence took the center platform. Shorter than Elder Thorn, with blue scales covering his body, Moss had spent decades studying newly discovered species. Our research shows humans are uniquely dangerous, Moss stated, bringing up new images. They evolved on what we would call a death world. Their planet has deadly temperature changes, harmful radiation, and poisonous elements. Yet they thrived. The screens showed humans in different environments: frozen wastelands, burning deserts, deep oceans, and high mountains. They can survive almost anywhere, Moss continued. They can eat foods that would kill most species. Their bodies heal quickly from injury. Most concerning, they have turned every discovery in their history into a weapon. The images changed to show human warfare through the ages, from simple spears to nuclear bombs and laser weapons. If we allow them to join the galactic community, Moss concluded, they will eventually dominate or destroy us all. The council erupted in fearful discussion. Species that had known peace for thousands of years faced the prospect of a dangerous newcomer. Elder Thorn raised his hands for silence. We face a difficult choice. We could welcome humans and risk our way of life. We could try to contain them, which might lead to war. Or, he paused, looking around the chamber. Or we could remove the problem before it grows. On Earth, in the underground headquarters of the United Defense Council, Admiral Reed met with the planet's top military and political leaders. The room was plain and functional, with a large round table and screens on every wall. The alien ships are becoming bolder, Reed explained, pointing to a map showing sightings near human colonies. They're not just watching Earth anymore. They're checking all our outposts. General Stone, a broad-shouldered man with a stern face, nodded in agreement. We should strike first, show them we're not easy targets. And start an interstellar war we can't win, countered Director Park, head of diplomatic relations. Her calm voice contrasted with Stone's aggressive tone. We don't know their numbers or capabilities. Reed raised her hand to stop the argument. We've managed to intercept some of their transmissions. Our linguists are still working on translations, but the tone doesn't seem friendly. In the Galactic Council, Elder Thorn presented his plan. I propose we deny the existence of humans completely. Confused murmurs filled the chamber. We will tell all worlds that humans are merely legends, stories invented by primitive planets. Any claims of human contact will be treated as lies against the Council. Director Moss nodded in agreement. Meanwhile, our forces will quietly remove all evidence of human civilization beyond their home system. We'll place a containment field around their star, preventing them from expanding further. And if they resist? Asked a representative. Then, we will do what is necessary to protect the galaxy, Elder Thorn replied coldly. The Council voted. The decision was nearly unanimous. The directive would be issued immediately. Humans do not exist. Any mention of them was forbidden. On Colony Station Delta orbiting Jupiter, Administrator Bell checked the station's defenses for the third time that day. The station housed 500 people working on Jupiter's moons. Bell had received Reed's warning about possible alien threats and taken it seriously. All shield generators operating at full capacity, reported Technician Dale. But honestly, sir, if an advanced alien fleet attacks us, I don't think these defenses will hold for long. Bell nodded grimly. They're not meant to win a war. They're meant to buy time for evacuation. The station's alert system suddenly blared. Dale rushed to the sensor controls. Multiple unknown vessels approaching. They're not responding to hails. Bell hit the emergency button. All personnel to evacuation pods. This is not a drill. Across the solar system, similar scenes played out as alien ships appeared near human outposts. In her command room on Earth, Admiral Reed received the distress calls one after another. The screens showed chaos as colonies on Mars, Venus, and the moons of Jupiter and Saturn reported contact with alien vessels. They're hitting everything at once, General Stone said, his face pale despite his earlier bravado. Reed's communication officer looked up from his station, confusion on his face. Admiral, we're picking up a transmission being broadcast throughout the system. It's strange. Put it through, Reed ordered. The main screen lit up with alien text, alongside a translation provided by Earth's AI systems. Official Galactic Council directive. The species known as humans has been confirmed. Non-existent, merely legends from primitive worlds. Any claims of human encounters are considered acts of treason against the Council. Silence fell over the command room as the implications became clear. They're erasing us, Reed finally said, her voice tight with anger. Denying our very existence, while they attack us. She turned to her officers, determination replacing shock. Send the code to all colonies, Phantom Protocol. Go dark. Activate defenses. Prepare for extended isolation. Reed looked back at the screen where the alien message still played on repeat. They think they can make us disappear, she said quietly. They're about to learn how real we are. Outside, Earth's atmosphere, the first Galactic Council ships appeared, their weapons charged and ready. The war for humanity's right to exist had begun. Administrator Bell watched the emergency evacuation pods launch from Colony Station Delta. Each small vessel carried 20 people, shooting away from the station in different directions. His hands gripped the edge of the control panel as he counted the pods on the screen. 23, 24, 25, he muttered, all civilians away. Bell turned to the small team that had stayed behind. Only 5 people remained on the station, all volunteers who understood they might not survive. Stealth systems active, reported Technician Dale, her fingers moving quickly over the controls. From the outside, this place will look abandoned. Bell nodded. The station's special coating now absorbed sensor scans instead of reflecting them. Its heat signature matched the cold rock of Jupiter's moon below. To passing ships, Colony Delta would appear dead and empty. Now we wait, Bell said. Quietly, they didn't wait long. Through the observation window, Bell saw the alien ships arrive. They were smooth and white, with no visible engines but a soft blue glow surrounding them. 7 vessels of different sizes, moving with perfect coordination. Dale whispered, "Those aren't explorers, that's a military formation." Bell said nothing. He knew she was right. The ships weren't here for peaceful contact. they had come to destroy. The aliens ignored the station completely. Instead, they focused on the automated mining operations on the moon below. Beams of intensely bright light shot from the ships, cutting through metal structures like they were made of paper. Mining robots, processing facilities, and transport vehicles, all destroyed methodically. "They're removing all signs we were ever here," Bell said. "Just like Admiral Reed warned us." Dale's eyes widened. "They really are trying to erase us." Across the solar system, similar scenes played out. Council forces systematically eliminated unmanned human outposts, research stations, and mining operations. They avoided direct attacks on facilities with large human populations. For now. On Earth, the United Defense Council gathered in their underground headquarters. Maps and screens covered the walls, showing the status of human colonies and the positions of alien ships. Most of the screens flashed red, indicating lost contact. Admiral Reed stood before the assembled military and political leaders. Her uniform was wrinkled from days without rest, but her voice remained strong. "They're targeting our unmanned operations first," she explained, pointing to affected areas. "Testing us, seeing if we'll reveal our military capabilities." General Stone paced at the back of the room. "We should strike back now. Show them what happens when you threaten humanity." "With what?" asked Director Park calmly. "Their ships outclass ours in every way. Our best weapons might not even scratch their hulls." Stone stopped pacing. "We have the Hammer satellites, orbital weapons platforms, that would confirm their propaganda about us being warmongers," Park interrupted. "If we respond with full force, we play into their hands." Admiral Reed raised her hand for silence. "I understand both positions, but we need a measured response that shows strength without revealing all our capabilities." The debate might have continued for hours, but an urgent message interrupted them. A young communications officer burst into the room, his face pale. "Admiral, we've received a distress signal from Colony Epsilon." Reed turned sharply. "Epsilon? That's a research station. 73 civilians. No military presence." The officer nodded. "The message says Council forces have entered the system. They're not targeting automated systems this time. They're heading straight for the colony." Silence fell over the room. Colony Epsilon was different. It housed families, scientists and their children working on agricultural projects for Mars. Reed's expression hardened. "Measured or not, we won't abandon our people." On Colony Epsilon, Dr. Wells worked frantically to move everyone to the emergency bunkers. As the colony's lead researcher, Wells had never expected to face a military threat. The station had been designed for science, not war. "Move quickly, but don't panic," he told the frightened colonists. "The lower levels have radiation shielding. It will hide your life signs from their scanners." A young researcher clutched her data tablet. "What about our work?" "Years of research. People first, data second," Wells said firmly. "If we survive, we can rebuild our research." The colony shook as the first alien ships entered orbit. Through the windows, Wells could see 5 large vessels positioning themselves above the main buildings. "Everyone down now," he shouted, helping the last group toward the bunker entrance. "I'll seal the doors behind you." As the civilians descended, Wells ran to the communications room. He needed to send one last message. "Colony Epsilon to Earth Command. Alien vessels have arrived. Civilians are in the bunkers. No defensive capabilities here. Please." A blinding light cut through the roof of the building. Wells dove under a desk as debris rained down around him. The message had to get through. Earth had to know they were under attack. Unknown to the Council forces, 3 human stealth frigates had been hiding in an asteroid field near Colony Epsilon. These ships, part of Admiral Reed's newest fleet, had hulls covered with light-absorbing material and engines designed to leave no heat signature. Captain Lee of the frigate Shadow watched the alien attack begin. "They're targeting the colony's communication array first," he noted. "Standard procedure to isolate the target." His second-in-command looked nervous. "Our orders were to observe only, Captain." Lee nodded grimly. "Orders change when civilians are under attack." He pressed the ship-wide communication button. "All hands to battle stations. Weapon systems online. Prepare to engage. For the first time since the conflict began, Council forces would face actual, human military technology rather than unarmed outposts. The 3 frigates powered up simultaneously, shedding their stealth fields. The Shadow, the Phantom, and the Ghost appeared seemingly from nowhere, their weapons already targeting the Council vessels. On the lead Council ship, Commander Voss of the Galactic Peacekeeping Force stared in shock at his sensor readings. "Impossible," he exclaimed. "Where do they come from? Scan the area again." His sensor officer looked equally confused. "Sir, 3 vessels of unknown design have appeared off our port side. They're powering weapons." Voss had led many containment operations across the galaxy. His mission here was simple: remove evidence of the myth species called humans. No intelligence report had mentioned hidden military vessels with technology that could mask their presence completely. "Evasive action," Voss ordered. "Target those ships," and the human frigates fired first. Advanced railguns launched projectiles at incredible speeds, bypassing the Council ship's energy shields completely. Kinetic weapons, so simple compared to the Council's energy technology, yet devastatingly effective. 2 of the Council vessels sustained heavy damage in the first volley. The third managed to return fire, sending pulses of blue energy toward the human ships. Captain Lee gripped his command chair as the Shadow shook violently. "Damage report. Hull breach on Deck 3. Sealing compartments," reported his tactical officer. "Weapons still operational." Lee nodded. "Target their propulsion systems. We don't need to destroy them. Just make sure they can't hurt the colony." The battle lasted less than 15 minutes. When it ended, 3 Council ships were disabled and drifting. One had managed to jump to faster-than-light travel, escaping with heavy damage. The 5th had been completely destroyed when its power core overloaded. The human frigates hadn't escaped, unscathed. The Ghost had lost life support on 2 decks. The Phantom's weapon systems were offline. Even the Shadow had taken significant damage to its hull, but Colony Epsilon remained intact. The civilians in the bunkers were safe. As the surviving Council vessels retreated, Admiral Reed watched the battle feeds from her command ship near Earth. The data told a clear story. Humans had won their first engagement against the Galactic Council. "They came expecting no resistance," Reed said to her officers. "They found otherwise." General Stone allowed himself a small smile. The element of surprise worked in our favor this time. "It won't work again," Reed cautioned. "Now they know we exist. Now they know we can fight back." She looked at the tactical display showing Council forces regrouping throughout the solar system. The real war begins now. 6 months had passed since the battle at Colony Epsilon. The galaxy now called the conflict the human containment. On thousands of worlds, citizens watched Council broadcasts about the successful removal of the human myth from historical records, but not everyone believed the official story. On the icy planet Cerub Prime, researcher Gray worked late in his laboratory. Unlike most Cerubians who had pale blue skin and stood only 4 feet tall, Gray was unusually large for his species at nearly 5 feet. His colleagues often joked that he had been born on the wrong planet. Gray carefully locked his laboratory door and spoke a command. "Secure mode active." The lights dimmed, and a hidden section of the floor slid open. From below, 3 figures emerged, humans who had been off-world when the conflict began. The Council search teams came through the science district again. Today, Gray told them. "They're becoming more thorough." Tom, the oldest of the humans, nodded grimly. "They're desperate. More people are questioning their story about us." For months, Gray had hidden these human diplomats beneath his laboratory. As a xenoanthropologist who studied other species, Gray had immediately recognized the Council's claims about humans as propaganda. When he found the diplomats stranded on Cerub Prime, he couldn't turn them away. "I've made contact with similar groups on 12 other worlds," Gray said, bringing up a holographic map. "Small pockets of resistance who question the Council directive. We're calling ourselves truth seekers." Lisa, the female human diplomat, studied the map. "How are you communicating without the Council detecting it?" Gray's mouth formed the Cerubian version of a smile. "Old technology. We're using radio wave patterns that the Council's quantum networks ignore as background noise. The third human, Ben, looked up from the data tablet he was studying. We need to share what we know. The truth about Earth and humanity. The Council has painted us as monsters. Gray nodded. That's why I've been recording your histories, your cultures, your art. The Council fears what they don't understand. They've told everyone that humans are violent creatures who turn everything into weapons. But I've seen the truth. He activated a hidden projector that displayed images the humans had shared. Earth's great cities, medical advances, music performances, children playing. Humans aren't the monsters described in official broadcasts, Gray told his small network of truth seekers that night. They're adaptable, yes, and formidable when threatened. But they've spent more of their history creating art and medicine than weapons. Across the galaxy, the truth seekers movement spread Gray's findings through encrypted channels. Soon, dozens of worlds harbored doubts about the Council's actions. Meanwhile, human forces had adapted to their new reality. Unable to match the Council's numbers, they used superior stealth technology and knowledge of their own systems to strike critical targets before disappearing. Commander West led one such strike team. At 35, West had spent most of his career in Earth's special forces before the war began. Now he commanded a team of 12 operatives aboard the stealth vessel Wraith. The Wraith drifted through space, its exterior covered with debris and ice to mask its shape from scanning systems. To any observer, it appeared to be nothing more than a small asteroid. 2 minutes to target, reported West's pilot. West looked at his team. They wore lightweight armor with built-in stealth systems, another technology the Council didn't. No humans possessed. Remember, he told them, our objective isn't maximum casualties, we're here to plant the truth. Their mission: upload actual human historical records into the galactic network, countering the Council's propaganda with evidence of human achievements, culture, and peaceful intentions before the conflict. The target was a Council communication hub, a massive station that relayed information to thousands of worlds. Docking in 30 seconds, the pilot announced. No alarms triggered, they don't see us. The Wraith attached itself to an unused maintenance port on the outer ring of the station. West's team moved quickly through the airlock, their suits making them nearly invisible to standard sensors. Team 1, head for the main server room, West ordered through their secure communication system. Team 2 with me to set up the distraction. Officer Miller led Team 1 through the station's maintenance tunnels. As a former computer security expert, she knew exactly what they needed to do. The main servers should be through here, she whispered, pointing to a sealed door. 2 team members placed small devices on the door's locking mechanism. The advanced human technology silently overrode the Council security systems, causing the door to slide open without triggering alarms. Inside, rows of quantum processors handled data from across the galaxy. Miller connected a small device to the central control panel. Uploading package now, she reported. Estimated time, 3 minutes. Meanwhile, West and Team 2 reached the station's power distribution center. They didn't need to shut down the station. That would only alert the Council to their presence. Instead, they needed a distraction that would keep the station's security team busy while Miller completed the upload. Plant the charges here, here, and here, West instructed, pointing to non-critical systems. Set timers for 2 minutes. The small explosive devices wouldn't cause major damage, but they would create enough confusion to keep security occupied. As both teams worked, a Council security officer walked around a corner, coming face to face with one of West's team members. The officer's 4 eyes widened in shock. "Intruder!" he shouted, reaching for his weapon. West reacted instantly, firing a tranquilizer dart that struck the officer in the neck. The alien collapsed before he could sound the general alarm. "Our timeline just got shorter," West warned through the comm system. "Miller's status?" 80% uploaded, she replied. "Need 1 more minute." West dragged the unconscious officer into a storage room. "You've got 30 seconds. Then we're leaving, with or without the complete upload." On the station's main control deck, a junior officer noticed a small anomaly in the data streams. "Sir, I'm detecting unusual activity in server section 4, he reported to his supervisor. The supervisor frowned. Run a diagnostic. Before the junior officer could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. The small explosives West's team had planted had detonated, causing power fluctuations in non-essential systems. Emergency in power distribution, someone shouted. Possible reactor instability. The supervisor forgot about the server anomaly. All security teams to the reactor level. This could be a containment breach. In the confusion, Miller completed the upload. Package delivered. Initiating self-destruct on our device. West nodded. All teams back to the ship, mission accomplished. The human strike team retreated as quickly as they had arrived. By the time the Council security forces realized there was no actual reactor problem, the Wraith had detached and drifted away, once again just another piece of space debris. But they left something important behind. Truth. Across thousands of worlds. The Council's information network suddenly displayed images and data about humans. Their art, their music, their scientific achievements, their attempts at peaceful contact before the conflict. For many species, seeing this information for the first time, it contradicted everything they had been told about the mythical humans. On distant Proxima Centauri b, human colonists led by Governor Hill lived in hidden underground cities. The colony had gone dark when the war began, using advanced camouflage systems to hide from Council scans. Hill addressed the Colony Council in their underground meeting chamber. We've received word of Commander West's successful mission. For the first time since this war began, the truth about humanity is spreading through the galaxy. An older council member looked skeptical. Will it matter? The council has convinced everyone we're monsters, or that we don't even exist. Governor Hill's expression remained determined. Truth always matters. We're not just fighting for survival anymore. We're fighting for the right to exist in the eyes of the galaxy. As the Truth Seekers movement grew and human guerrilla tactics succeeded, Elder Thorne faced mounting questions from council members. Some began to wonder if the original directive had been a mistake based on fear rather than fact. The tide was turning, slowly but surely. The war for humanity's existence had entered a new phase, a battle for the truth itself. Council investigator Blake had served the Galactic Council for over 40 years. Tall and thin with silver-gray skin, Blake had built a reputation for finding truth, no matter how well hidden. When the Council assigned Blake to assess the human situation, many expected a quick confirmation of official positions. Blake approached the task with methodical precision. First step, review all original intelligence reports about humans. Show me the first contact records, Blake told the Council archive system, and all intelligence assessments that led to the containment directive. The data appeared on Blake's screen. Immediately, something seemed wrong. The reports contained alarming claims about human aggression and danger, but offered little evidence. Where were the detailed observations, the scientific analyses, the cultural evaluations that should precede any species containment? Blake's four-fingered hand tapped thoughtfully on the desk. This wasn't standard procedure. The decision to declare humans mythological had bypassed normal council protocols. System, show me the voting record for the Human Containment Directive, Blake ordered. The screen displayed the council vote, nearly unanimous support after Elder Thorne's presentation. But when Blake requested the preliminary committee findings that should have preceded such a vote, the system returned an error. Records restricted. That was unusual. Council decisions were supposed to be transparent. Blake decided to dig deeper. System, show me resource allocation records for Council. Members in the month following the Human Directive. The results were shocking. 5 high-ranking Council members, including Elder Thorne, had received massive resource rights to star systems near human space immediately after the directive passed. The official reason: expansion of peaceful mining operations in newly secured zones. Blake sat back, eyes narrowed in thought. This wasn't about protecting the galaxy. This was about profit. Meanwhile on Earth, Admiral Reed's intelligence team made a breakthrough of their own. For months, they had worked to intercept and decrypt Council communications. They finally succeeded with a high-security transmission between Elder Thorn and his associates. Reed stood in the dimly lit decryption room, watching as the message appeared on screen, translated into English. Our corporation has secured exclusive rights to the Proxima, Tau Ceti, and Epsilon Eridani systems. Once human presence is fully eliminated, mining can begin immediately. Projected profits exceed 1 trillion universal credits. The Council restrictions on these systems due to dangerous mythological species ensure we face no competition. Reed's face hardened as she read the message. This was never about humanity being a threat. It was about money. She turned to her communications officer. Get me a secure line to all our remaining outposts, and contact our allies in the Truth Seekers network. They need to see this. Armed with evidence of corruption, Blake approached Council member Jorah, known for strict, ethical standards. They met in a private chamber away from monitoring systems. What I'm about to show you violates my investigation protocols, Blake admitted. But the truth is more important than procedure. Jorah, an elder member of the amphibious Moran species, listened carefully as Blake presented the evidence. The resource allocations, the bypassed protocols, the lack of scientific assessment before the containment directive. This war wasn't initiated because humans pose a threat, Blake explained. It was started because acknowledging their existence would cost certain council members trillions in mining rights. Jorah's wide eyes blinked slowly. These are serious accusations against Elder Thorn and others. We need more than financial records to prove intent. I believe the humans can provide that proof, Blake replied. If we can establish communication. Jorah looked surprised. You've had contact with them? Not yet, Blake admitted. But I know someone who has. Throughout the galaxy, researcher Gray's Truth Seekers network had grown beyond anyone's expectations. What started as dozens scientists questioning Council propaganda had expanded to millions across hundreds of worlds. Gray's recordings of human history, art, and peaceful intentions had been copied and shared countless times. Gray received Blake's encrypted message while working in his laboratory. The message was brief. Evidence found. Council corruption confirmed. Need direct contact with human leaders. Gray contacted his human friends immediately. This could be the breakthrough we've been waiting for. A council investigator with proof of corruption. Tom, the human diplomat, looked cautious. Or it could be a trap to find us. I've verified Blake's identity, Gray insisted. This investigator has exposed 3 major corruption cases in the past decade. If anyone will stand for truth, it's Blake. After careful consideration, the humans agreed to establish indirect communication with Blake through Gray's secure channels. Meanwhile, on multiple worlds, public opinion was shifting. Billions had seen the truth about humans through Commander West's information upload. Protests erupted on numerous planets, with citizens demanding explanations from their council representatives. On the council capital world, Elder Thorn faced an emergency session called by Jorah and 17 other council members. The Grand Chamber was filled with representatives from across the galaxy, along with news recorders broadcasting to thousands of worlds. Thorn appeared confident as he addressed the gathering. These rumors of real humans are concerning. Clearly, our efforts to dispel dangerous myths have been insufficient. Blake stood on the speaker's platform facing the council. This is not about myths, Elder Thorn. This is about truth. The large display screens activated, showing the evidence Blake had gathered, the resource allocation records, the bypassed protocols, the corruption trail leading directly to Thorn and his associates. The directive to deny human existence was never about galactic safety, Blake announced to the shocked audience. It was about claiming valuable resource rights to systems that, by council law, would require sharing with the human species if they were acknowledged as real. Thorn's face darkened. These accusations are baseless. Investigator Blake has clearly been influenced by human sympathizers. Blake nodded to a technician. Let's hear from the humans themselves. The screens changed to show Admiral Reed, broadcasting from her command ship. The human leader looked directly at the council, her expression resolute. Members of the Galactic Council, I am Admiral Reed of Earth's United Defense Force. We have intercepted communications proving that Elder Thorn and his associates engineered this conflict for profit. The recorded messages appeared on screen, Thorn's own words about mining rights and profits once humans were eliminated. Throughout the chamber, representatives began talking at once. Many species withdrew their support for the conflict immediately, citing violations of the Council's founding principles. Thorn attempted to dismiss the evidence. These messages are fabricated. This human is using deception, but his defense crumbled as more council members joined the opposition. Several of Thorn's closest allies suddenly distanced themselves, claiming they had been misled about humans. For the first time since the conflict began, direct communication opened between the council and human leaders. On the main screen, Admiral Reed addressed the galactic representatives. We never wanted war, she stated firmly. From our earliest days in space, we sought peaceful coexistence. When your ships first appeared in our system, we attempted communication, not conflict. Reed displayed humanity's first contact protocols, translated into the Council's standard language. These were our instructions to all ships. Approach peacefully. Attempt communication on all frequencies, show no weapons, represent Earth with dignity and respect. Many council members looked shocked. This contradicted everything they had been told about human aggression. Blake moved to stand directly before Elder Thorn. You lied to the council. You manufactured a threat to enrich yourself and your associates. You started a war that has cost thousands of lives. Thorn's supporters dwindled as the evidence mounted. One by one, council members called for immediate cessation of hostilities against humans and full investigation of Thorn's actions. The tide had turned completely. What began as a war to erase humanity had transformed into a revelation that would reshape the galaxy forever. The truth, Blake announced to the council, is that humans exist. They have always existed, and they deserve the same rights as all sentient species in our community. The vote was nearly unanimous. The council officially recognized humanity and called for immediate peace talks. As Elder Thorn was led away to face justice, Admiral Reed turned to her officers. This isn't the end, she cautioned, but it's the beginning of understanding. The Grand Conciliation Summit took place on Neutral Station Alpha, an ancient space station that had existed before even the Galactic Council formed. Representatives from Earth stood on one side of the massive circular chamber. Delegates from thousands of galactic civilizations stood on the other. In the middle, a round table made of polished stone waited for the leaders who would make history today. Admiral Reed had changed her military uniform for formal diplomatic clothes. As she walked toward the table, she felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. She represented not just Earth, but all of humanity. The decisions made here would shape human existence in the galaxy for generations. Elder Jorah, who had replaced Thorn as the council's leader, approached from the other side. The amphibious alien moved with slow dignity, water vapor misting around his breathing apparatus. They met at the table, facing each other directly for the first time. On behalf of the Galactic Council, Jorah began, his translator converting his watery speech to clear English. I extend formal recognition of humanity as a sentient species with all rights and protections under Council law. Reed nodded solemnly. On behalf of Earth and all human colonies, I accept this recognition and offer our commitment to peaceful cooperation. The chamber remained silent as the two leaders sat down. This moment marked the official end of a conflict that had nearly erased humanity from galactic memory. Before we discuss terms, Reed said clearly, I want to address all representatives here. She turned to look at the gathered delegates. Humanity doesn't seek revenge for what happened. We understand that most species were misled by corrupt leaders. We seek understanding, not retribution. A murmur of relief passed through the alien representatives. Many had feared human demands for compensation or territory. Over the next several hours, agreements were made. The systems falsely claimed near-human space were returned to neutral status. Cooperative exploration rights were established. Trade routes were opened. Perhaps most importantly, cultural exchange programs were created. Elsewhere in the station, Elder Thorn and the other conspirators faced justice under council law. Their trial was broadcast throughout the galaxy. The evidence was overwhelming. The punishment was severe, stripped of all positions, properties, and assets, confined to a single planet for the remainder of their lives. The corruption we uncovered went beyond simple greed, Investigator Blake explained to the media. It revealed fundamental flaws in how we evaluate new species. The Council has already begun implementing reforms to prevent such abuses in the future. 1 month after the summit, the first cultural exchanges began. Human art, music, literature, and science spread throughout the galaxy. In return, alien knowledge flowed to Earth. The exchanges revealed surprising similarities across species, the universal nature of curiosity, creativity, and connection. Researcher Gray, whose truth seekers had played such a crucial role in revealing the truth, received the highest civilian honor from both the Council and Earth government. His Xenoanthropology Institute became the galaxy's premier center for cross-species understanding. The greatest barrier between different species isn't biology, Gray told his students at the newly established Interspecies University. It's fear of the unknown. When we replace fear with knowledge, understanding becomes possible. On Colony, Epsilon, now rebuilt as a diplomatic hub, Dr. Wells welcomed representatives from 50 different species to the inaugural Galactic Science Symposium. The research station that had once been attacked now served as a symbol of cooperation. Today we share knowledge freely, Wells announced to the assembled scientists. This is humanity's true nature, not the warriors you were told about, but explorers and innovators eager to learn and contribute. Commander West, whose information mission had helped turn the tide of public opinion, stood at the back of the crowd. He had traded his military uniform for civilian clothes, now serving as head of security for the diplomatic hub. Strange to think that just a year ago we were fighting for our right to exist, West remarked to his former team member Officer Miller. Miller nodded. Now we're hosting a science conference with the same species that tried to erase us. They tried to erase us from history, West replied. Instead, they made us part of it. The galactic integration of humanity proceeded faster than anyone expected. Human adaptability, once feared, became valued in crisis response across multiple worlds. When a severe earthquake struck the Marin homeworld, human emergency teams were among the first to arrive, bringing techniques developed on Earth's most disaster-prone regions. Earth's militaries also shared their knowledge, though carefully. The stealth technology that had been so effective during the conflict was studied by Council defense forces. In return, humans gained access to faster-than-light travel improvements that cut journey times by half. We're not sharing everything, Admiral Reed told the United Earth government, and neither are they. Trust builds slowly. The most significant changes came in the Council itself. Reforms gave younger species more representation. The process for evaluating new civilizations was completely redesigned, with multiple independent assessments required before any action could be taken. Blake, promoted to chief investigator, oversaw the implementation of these new protocols. The attempt to erase humanity revealed deep flaws in our system, Blake explained. By fixing those flaws, we've made the galaxy safer for all species. In the council chambers where the war began, a new memorial stood. Its simple inscription, translated into hundreds of languages, read, "To acknowledge all sentient life is to honor our highest ideals. Never again shall fear guide our path among the stars." Governor Hill, who had protected the underground human colonies during the darkest days of the conflict, now served as Earth's first ambassador to the Galactic Council. As she walked through the memorial hall, she remembered the fear and determination that had defined those days in hiding. "We've come so far so quickly," she said to her aide. "From hiding our existence to helping shape galactic policy." "Do you think it will last?" the young aide asked. Hill considered the question carefully. "Peace is never permanent, but understanding, once achieved, is harder to break than ignorance." 1 year after the summit, Admiral Reed stood at Earth's first galactic embassy, a gleaming structure built in orbit where ships from hundreds of worlds now moved peacefully through the system. From this viewpoint, Earth looked small and fragile, a blue marble hanging in the void. Reed stood beside Governor Hill, watching the traffic of alien vessels. "They told the galaxy we never existed," Reed said quietly. "Now our existence has transformed it." Hill nodded. "The question is, how will it transform us?" Reed had no simple answer. Humanity had survived extinction and gained a place among the stars. The future held possibilities no one could have imagined before. "We'll adapt," Reed finally said. "That's what humans do best." Below them, Earth continued its eternal spin, no longer alone in the universe. The planet that had nearly been erased from galactic memory now stood as a symbol of resilience, truth, and the power of understanding. A new chapter in human history had begun, not as myths, but as partners in a vast, complex galactic community. The war that began with denial had ended with acceptance. The lie that humans never existed had been replaced by the truth that they had always belonged among the stars.
The first ships appeared on a Tuesday morning over New York City. They came down from the sky like falling stars, but they did not crash. Instead, they stopped and hung in the air above the tall buildings. The ships were beautiful in a way that made people on the ground stop walking and look up with their mouths open. Each ship looked like it was made of crystal and light. They were long and smooth, with no sharp edges anywhere. The sunlight hit them and made rainbow colors dance across their surfaces. The largest ship was the size of a city block and floated without making any sound at all. Sarah Martinez was drinking coffee in her apartment when she saw the first ship through her window. She dropped her cup and watched the hot liquid spread across her kitchen floor, but she could not look away from the sky. More ships appeared over other cities around the world. London, Tokyo, Moscow, and dozens of other places reported the same thing. Crystal ships hanging in the sky like decorations on an invisible Christmas tree. The news reporters did not know what to say. They had words for many things, but not for this. Some called them UFOs, others said they were alien spaceships. A few people said they were angels coming to save the world. Most people just stared and waited to see what would happen next. 3 days passed. The ships did nothing but float. They did not attack. They did not land. They did not send any messages. The world's governments held emergency meetings. The military pointed their weapons at the sky, but the weapons seemed very small compared to the giant crystal ships. On the fourth day, the ships finally spoke. The voice came from every television, every radio, and every phone on Earth at the same time. It was a calm voice that spoke perfect English, but somehow everyone on the planet heard it in their own language. "People of Earth," the voice said, "we greet you in peace. We are the Harmonious Collective, and we come to bring you into the galactic community. Do not be afraid. We mean you no harm." The voice belonged to Admiral Zethkara, though the humans did not know his name yet. He stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking down at the blue and white planet below him. His skin was purple and smooth, and his eyes were large and golden. He had 4 arms instead of 2, and each hand had 6 fingers. He wore robes that seemed to be made of liquid silver. Admiral Zethkara had done this many times before. He had stood on the bridges of his ships and looked down at thousands of different worlds. Some had blue skies like Earth, others had red skies or green skies or no skies at all. Some planets had 1 sun, others had 3 or 4, but they all had the same thing. They all had people who thought they were the most important beings in the universe. "These humans are just like all the others," Admiral Zethkara said to his second in command, a tall creature with silver skin named Commander Veltar. "They think they are special because they have built a few space stations and walked on their moon. They do not understand how small they really are." Commander Veltar nodded. His people had been one of the first to join the Harmonious Collective, back when it was much smaller. Now the collective controlled over 10,000 worlds, and each new world made them stronger. "Their technology is very primitive," Commander Veltar said. "Our scouts report that their fastest ships would take hundreds of years to reach the nearest star. Their weapons are chemical explosives and simple energy beams. They still use metal and plastic for most of their construction." Admiral Zethkara smiled. It was not a kind smile. "Perfect. They will be grateful for our help. They always are, at first." Down on Earth, the governments of the world were trying to decide what to do. The President of the United States sat in a room deep underground with her advisors. The walls were thick concrete, and armed guards stood outside the door. The room was supposed to be the safest place in the country, but it did not feel safe anymore. "What do we know about their ships?" the President asked. General Morrison, a man with gray hair and worried eyes, opened a thick folder. "Our satellites can't get clear readings on their technology. The ships seem to bend light around them. Our radar shows them, but the signals that come back don't make sense. It's like looking at something that's there and not there at the same time." "What about their weapons?" asked Dr. Rebecca Stone, the President's science advisor. "We don't know if they have any," General Morrison admitted. We haven't seen any gun barrels or missile ports, but that might mean their weapons are more advanced than anything we can recognize. The president rubbed her forehead. She had been in politics for 20 years, but nothing had prepared her for this. How many ships are there total? Over 300, General Morrison said. They're positioned over every major city and military base on the planet. If they wanted to attack us, they could hit every important target at the same time. In Moscow, the Russian premier was having a similar meeting. In Beijing, the Chinese leadership was doing the same thing. Every government on Earth was asking the same questions and getting the same answers. They knew almost nothing about these visitors, and that scared them more than anything else. On the fifth day, the aliens asked for a meeting. They wanted representatives from all of Earth's nations to come to the United Nations. Building in New York, they promised safe passage and said they would explain everything. The meeting was unlike anything in human history. The Secretary General of the United Nations, a small woman from Brazil named Maria Santos, sat at a long table with representatives from every country on Earth. The room was full of cameras and microphones. Everyone wanted to see what the aliens looked like. Admiral Zethkara entered the room without using the door. One moment, the space at the front of the room was empty, and the next moment he was standing there. The light seemed to bend around him as he appeared, like heat waves rising from hot pavement. The humans in the room gasped. They had seen pictures and videos of other aliens in movies, but this was real. Admiral Zethkara was tall, almost 3 meters high. His purple skin seemed to glow with its own light. His forearms moved with perfect grace, and his golden eyes looked at each human in the room as if he could see inside their thoughts. People of Earth, Admiral Zethkara said. His voice was deep and musical. I am Admiral Zethkara of the Harmonious Collective. I speak for the Council of 500 species that make up our great community. Secretary General Santos stood up. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was steady. Welcome to Earth, Admiral. We are honored by your visit. What brings you to our world? Admiral Zethkara smiled. We come to offer you a great gift. For too long, your species has been alone in the darkness between the stars. You have fought wars over small pieces of land and tiny amounts of resources. You have suffered from disease and hunger and ignorance. This can all change. He gestured with one of his hands, and the air above the table began to glow. Images appeared in the light, showing beautiful cities on distant worlds. The buildings were made of materials that seemed to flow like water, but stood as strong as mountains. Flying vehicles moved through the air without wings or engines. People of many different species walked together in peace. This is what we offer, Admiral Zethkara said. Technology that will solve all your problems. Medicine that will cure all your diseases. Energy sources that will power your civilization for millions of years. All we ask in return is that you join our community and follow our guidance. The humans in the room looked at each other. The images were beautiful, but there was something about the way Admiral Zethkara spoke that made some of them feel uneasy. The President of the United States leaned forward. What exactly does following your guidance mean? Admiral Zethkara's smile became wider. Simple things. You will reorganize your governments to be more efficient. You will share your resources with the community. You will contribute workers for important projects throughout the galaxy. You will help us bring other worlds into the community, just as we are helping you. And if we refuse? Asked the Chinese premier. The images above the table changed. Now they showed worlds that were dark and lifeless, cities that had been burned to ash, oceans that had been turned to glass. These worlds chose to remain alone? Admiral Zethkara said. His voice was still calm and musical, but there was something cold underneath it. They decided they did not need our help. As you can see, they were wrong. The galaxy is a dangerous place for species that try to face it alone. The room was very quiet. Finally, Secretary General Santos spoke. How long do we have to decide? You have one of your weeks, Admiral Zethkara said. That should be enough. Time for your leaders to explain the situation to your people. I am sure they will make the right choice. Admiral Zefkara disappeared the same way he had appeared, with a bending of light that hurt to look at. The humans were left alone in the room, staring at the empty space where he had been standing. Outside the United Nations building, millions of people watched the news coverage. The aliens' offer was being broadcast all over the world. Some people were excited about the technology and medicine the aliens promised. Others were worried about giving up their freedom to strangers from space. In a small apartment in Detroit, an old man named Frank Williams turned off his television and walked to his basement. Frank had worked for the government for 40 years. In departments that officially did not exist. He knew things that were not supposed to be known. Frank opened a locked metal box and took out a satellite phone. He dialed a number that was not in any phone book. "This is Frank," he said when someone answered. "The package has been delivered. It's time to wake up the sleepers." On the other end of the line, a woman's voice said, "Understood. All stations are to go to alert status. The Leviathan protocols are now active." Frank hung up the phone and looked at a photograph on his basement wall. It showed a group of people in military uniforms standing in front of something very large and dark. The photograph was taken underwater, in a place that was supposed to be empty ocean. "I hope you're all right, old friend," Frank said to the photograph. "I hope we're ready for this." Above the Earth, Admiral Zefkara stood on his bridge and watched the blue planet turn slowly below him. He had conquered 10,000 worlds, and Earth would be number 10,001. The humans would resist at first, but they always did. Then they would accept the collective's offer because they had no choice. What Admiral Zefkara did not know was that Earth had been preparing for this day for a very long time. Deep under the Pacific Ocean, in places where his sensors could not reach, something vast and dangerous was beginning to wake up. The humans had been waiting for visitors like him, and they were much more ready than he could possibly imagine. The countdown to humanity's true test had begun. 3 months had passed since the day the crystal ships arrived. The world had changed, but not in the way most people expected. The governments of Earth had accepted the harmonious collective's offer, because what choice did they have? The alien. Ships hung in the sky like swords waiting to fall, and everyone remembered the pictures of the dead worlds that had refused to join. Now alien workers walked through the streets of every major city. They were not all purple like Admiral Zefkara. Some had blue skin and 6 legs. Others looked almost human except for their silver eyes and the way they never seemed to blink. They were always polite, always helpful, and they made everyone feel like children who needed to be taken care of. Dr. Elena Vasquez watched a group of aliens directing the construction of a new building in downtown Los Angeles. The building was going up faster than any human construction project she had ever seen. The alien workers used tools that looked like magic wands, and materials that seemed to grow and shape themselves. Elena was a xenobiologist, which meant she studied alien life forms. Before the collective arrived, she had studied the possibility of alien life. Now she studied actual aliens, and what she was learning scared her more than she wanted to admit. "The official reports say everything is going perfectly," said Marcus Shun, the man standing next to her. Marcus was a computer programmer who worked for the resistance movement that had formed after the aliens arrived. The resistance was small and careful, because the aliens had ways of listening to conversations that human technology could not detect. "The official reports are lies," Elena said quietly. "I've been studying the collective's biological samples. The aliens aren't just here to help us. They're studying us too, and not in a good way." Marcus looked around to make sure no one was listening. "What kind of studying?" Elena opened her tablet and showed Marcus a series of charts and graphs. To most people, they would have looked like random numbers and lines. To Elena, they told a terrible story. "They're mapping human genetic structure," Elena said. "But not for medical research. They're looking for specific traits? Aggression levels, intelligence patterns, resistance to disease, physical strength. It's like they're making a catalog of what humans can be used for." Marcus felt his stomach turn cold. "Used for what?" Before Elena could answer, her tablet beeped with an emergency message. The message was in a code that only Resistance members knew. It said that a supply convoy had disappeared in the Nevada desert. That was the third convoy this month. What Marcus and Elena did not know was that the convoys were not really disappearing. They were being captured by human military units that officially did not exist. The trucks and their alien guards were being taken to underground facilities, where human scientists were studying collective technology and learning how it worked. Colonel Sarah Mitchell stood in one of these facilities, 300 feet below the Nevada desert. The facility was called Deep Site 7, and it was one of 50 similar bases hidden around the world. The bases had been built over the past 30 years by a secret organization that prepared for the day when Earth would be contacted by hostile aliens. What have we learned from the latest capture? Colonel Mitchell asked Dr. James Park. The facility's chief scientist. Dr. Park held up a small device that looked like a metal flower. This is a collective communication device. We finally figured out how it works. The aliens aren't just talking to each other, they're talking to something else, something big. How big? Colonel Mitchell asked. We think it's a central intelligence that controls the entire collective. Every alien we've captured has one of these devices implanted in their brain. They're not individuals making their own decisions. They're parts of a giant mind that thinks for all of them? Colonel Mitchell nodded. This matched what other resistance cells had discovered around the world. The harmonious collective was not a community of free species working together. It was a hive mind that consumed other civilizations and turned them into extensions of itself. Any word from the Leviathan? Colonel Mitchell asked. Dr. Park smiled for the first time in weeks. Captain Chin reports that all systems are operational. The ship is ready to surface whenever we give the order. 5,000 miles away. In the depths of the Pacific Ocean, Captain Sarah Chun stood on the bridge of the most advanced warship ever built by human hands. The USS Leviathan was longer than 50 city blocks and contained technology that the surface world did not know existed. The ship had been under construction for 25 years. Ever since the day a dying alien refugee had crashed in the Pacific Ocean, the refugee called itself the Witness, and it had told humanity about the harmonious collective and their true nature. The Witness had died, but not before giving humanity fragments of technology and a warning about what was coming. Status report, Captain Chun said to her bridge crew. All weapon systems charged and ready, reported Commander Rodriguez. Fighter squadrons 1 through 20 are armed and prepared for launch. Nuclear reactors are operating at optimal levels. Stealth systems? Captain Chun asked. Fully operational, said Lieutenant Zhang. The collective sensors still read US as empty ocean. Their technology can't detect our quantum cloaking fields. Captain Chun looked at the main screen, which showed the ocean floor around them. Schools of fish swam past, unaware that they were swimming over the most dangerous weapon in human history. The Leviathan had been hidden here for years, waiting for the day when humanity would need it. That day was coming soon. Back on the surface, Admiral Zethkara was beginning to suspect that something was wrong with Earth. He stood in his private chamber aboard his flagship, studying reports from around the planet. The humans were cooperating with the integration process, but there were small problems that bothered him. Commander Veltar, Admiral Zethkara said, how many of our supply convoys have gone missing? Commander Veltar checked his datapad. 17 convoys in the past month, Admiral. We have attributed the losses to human criminal organizations and equipment failures. 17 convoys? Admiral Zethkara repeated. On other worlds, we rarely lose more than 1 or 2 convoys during the entire integration process. Yet on this primitive planet, we lose 17 in 1 month. The humans are known for their chaotic nature, Commander Veltar said. Perhaps their criminal organizations are more organized than we expected. Admiral Zethkara was not convinced. He had conquered over 100 worlds personally, and he knew the signs of organized resistance. The humans were showing patterns that suggested military training and advanced planning. What about their communications? Admiral Zethkara asked. We monitor all human television, radio, and internet traffic, Commander Veltar said. Most humans appear to accept our presence. There are some resistance groups, but they seem small and poorly organized. What Commander Veltar did not know was that the real human resistance was not using normal communications. They were using quantum encrypted messages that traveled through underwater cables the collective had not discovered. The resistance was much larger and better organized than the aliens suspected. Dr. Elena Vasquez was part of this hidden network. She had spent weeks studying alien biological samples, and what she had found made her sick to her stomach. She was now sitting in a secret meeting with other resistance leaders, sharing what she had learned. The collective doesn't just conquer worlds, Elena said to the group of 12 people sitting around the table. They harvest them. I found traces of genetic material from dozens of different species in their biological samples. Species that no longer exist. Marcus Chun leaned forward. What do you mean, harvest? Elena opened her laptop and showed the group a series of microscopic images. The collective breaks down the biology of conquered species and uses the parts to improve their own bodies. They take the best traits from each species and add them to themselves. The humans they're studying now will become raw material for the next generation of collective beings. The room was silent. Everyone understood what Elena was saying. The collective was not offering to help humanity join a galactic community. They were preparing to turn humanity into food. How long do we have? Asked Dr. William Hayes, a former NASA engineer. Based on the rate of their biological collection, I estimate 6 months before they begin the harvesting process, Elena said. Maybe less if they decide we're too dangerous to keep alive. Then we need to move faster, said Maria Santos, who had left her job as Secretary General of the United Nations to join the resistance. How soon can our people be ready? Marcus checked his encrypted phone. Deep sites around the world report readiness levels at 90%. The Leviathan is operational and waiting for orders. Our infiltration teams have identified weak points in the collective's command structure. What about civilian populations? Asked Dr. Hayes. Emergency shelters are prepared in major cities, Maria said. We can't save everyone, but we can save enough to rebuild when this is over. The group spent the next 2 hours planning their response to the collective. They had been preparing for this moment for months, ever since they discovered the truth about their visitors. The plan was simple in concept, but incredibly dangerous to execute. They would reveal humanity's true strength all at once, hoping to shock the collective into retreat or defeat them entirely. As the meeting ended, Elena received an urgent message on her secure phone. One of her research contacts had discovered something important at a collective facility in Geneva. The aliens were not just studying human biology. They were studying human psychology and behavior patterns. Elena called her contact, a scientist named Dr. Andreas Muller, who worked at the European Organization for Nuclear Research. Elena, you need to hear this, Dr. Muller said. His voice was shaking with fear and excitement. I've been monitoring collective communications from their research facility. They're not just planning to harvest our bodies. They're planning to harvest our minds. What do you mean? Elena asked. They want to preserve human consciousness and use it to control other species, Dr. Muller explained. They think human psychology is uniquely suited for manipulation and deception. They want to turn us into their intelligence officers for conquering other worlds. Elena felt her blood turn to ice. The collective was not just planning to kill humanity. They were planning to turn human souls into weapons against other innocent species. Andreas, you need to get out of there immediately, Elena said. If they suspect you know this, they'll kill you. I can't leave yet, Dr. Muller said. I've discovered something else. The collective has planted quantum bombs in every major city on Earth. If they detect organized resistance, they'll detonate the bombs and kill everyone. Elena's phone went dead. She tried calling back, but there was no answer. Either Dr. Muller's phone had been discovered, or Dr. Muller himself had been discovered. Elena immediately sent an emergency Message to all resistance cells around the world. The message was short and simple. Phoenix protocols are active. Time to wake the sleepers. Around the world, hidden facilities received Elena's message. In underground bases, human soldiers who had been training for this day began final preparations. In ocean facilities, submarines that did not officially exist started moving toward their target coordinates. In space, human monitoring stations that were disguised as weather satellites began scanning for collective weak points. The most important message went to the Leviathan. Captain Sarah Chun read the message and turned to her crew. "All hands to battle stations," Captain Chun announced, over the ship's communication system. "This is not a drill. Operation Deep Rising is now active. Prepare to surface." Deep in the Pacific Ocean, the most powerful warship ever built by human hands began to rise toward the surface. The time for hiding was over. Humanity was about to show the harmonious collective what Earth's children could do when they were truly angry. Admiral Zethkara felt a strange vibration through the hull of his flagship. His sensor officers reported unusual energy readings from Earth's oceans, but they could not identify the source. Something very large was moving under the water, something that had not been there before. Commander Veltar, Admiral Zethkara, sighed, "Prepare the planet cracker weapon. I believe these humans need a demonstration of our power." He had no idea that the demonstration was about to go in the opposite direction. Admiral Zethkara stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the targeting display show the city of Los Angeles. The humans had been causing too many problems. 17 supply convoys lost, strange energy readings from their oceans, and now his intelligence officers were reporting that several collective research facilities had gone silent. It was time to remind these primitive creatures who was in charge. "Charge the planet cracker weapon," Admiral Zethkara commanded. "We will destroy their largest population center. The survivors will understand that resistance is impossible." The planet cracker was the collective's most feared weapon. It could turn mountains into dust and oceans into steam. Admiral Zethkara had used it to break the will of hundreds of worlds. No species had ever survived a planet cracker demonstration and continued to resist. Commander Veltar monitored the weapon's charging process. "Energy levels at 60% and rising, Admiral. The weapon will be ready to fire in 10 minutes. Below them, the city of Los Angeles continued its normal routine. People drove to work, children went to school, and life moved forward as if nothing was about to change. They had no idea that in 10 minutes, their city would become a crater of melted glass and burning metal dot, but deep in the Pacific Ocean, something impossible was happening. The water itself seemed to be rising, pushing upward in a massive bubble that grew larger with each passing second. Fish scattered in all directions as if fleeing from a predator too terrible to face. "Captain," Sarah Chun felt the Leviathan breaking free from the ocean floor where it had hidden for so many years. The ship had been built in secret, far from any human city, using technology that officially did not exist. It was humanity's greatest achievement and their most deadly weapon. "Hull breach in 30 seconds, announced Commander Rodriguez from his station. "All decks report ready for surface operations." Captain Chun looked at the main display screen, which showed the view outside the ship. Water rushed past in torrents as the Leviathan rose through the depths. Schools of fish parted before them like curtains opening on a stage. "Communications. Open a channel to all collective ships," Captain Chin ordered. Lieutenant Zhang worked at her console, using technology that could cut through any alien jamming system. "Channel open, Captain. They can hear us." On the bridge of his flagship, Admiral Zethkara received an incoming transmission from Earth's surface. He expected it to be a surrender message from the human governments. Instead, he heard a voice that was calm, confident, and completely unafraid. "Attention collective forces," the voice said. "This is Captain Sarah Chun of the United Human Spaceship Leviathan. You have exactly 30 seconds to power down your weapons and prepare to receive our terms for your immediate departure from this system." Admiral Zethkara laughed. It was a sound like breaking glass. Humans! Even now you try to bluff us with your primitive courage? Commander Veltar, what is this Leviathan their captain speaks of? Commander Veltar checked his sensors, but they showed nothing except empty ocean. I detect no human ships, Admiral. Their largest vessels are barely capable of reaching their own moon. This must be some kind of psychological warfare. Psychological warfare, Admiral Zethkara repeated. How pathetic. Prepare to fire the planet cracker. Let us show these humans what real power looks like. That was the moment when the Pacific Ocean exploded. Water rose into the sky like a liquid mountain, reaching up toward the clouds in a display that could be seen from space. Steam and spray filled the air as something massive broke through the surface of the ocean. The sound was like thunder, but it went on and on without stopping. Admiral Zethkara stared at his main screen as the water cleared and revealed what had been hiding beneath the waves. His golden eyes grew wide with shock and disbelief. The ship that rose from the ocean was larger than anything the collective had ever built. It was over 50 kilometers long and 10 kilometers wide, a floating city made of metal and energy. Its hull was dark gray and covered with patterns that seemed to move and shift in the sunlight. Weapons ports opened along its sides like the eyes of some massive predator waking up from sleep. That is impossible, Admiral Zethkara whispered. Humans do not have the technology to build something like that. But the evidence was right in front of him. The Leviathan hung in the air above the ocean, water cascading from its hull in waterfalls that fell for kilometers. The ship's engines glowed with a blue-white light that hurt to look at directly. Energy readings from the vessel were off the scale of anything the collective sensors could measure. Captain Chin stood on the bridge of her ship, looking up at the collective fleet through the main view screen. She had trained for this moment for 15 years, ever since the day she had been selected to command humanity's secret weapon. Target the flagship, Captain Chun ordered. Show them what human engineering can do. The Leviathan's main guns swiveled toward Admiral Zethkara's ship. Each gun was the size of a city building, and there were 12 of them. When they fired, the energy beams lit up the sky like artificial lightning. Admiral Zethkara's flagship had shields that could stop the weapons of entire fleets. The shields had never failed, not once in 1,000 battles across 100 worlds. But when the Leviathan's weapons hit them, the shields flickered and died like candles in a hurricane. The energy beams struck the collective flagship and tore through its crystal hull as if it were made of paper. Explosions bloomed along the ship's length as power systems overloaded and weapon banks erupted in chains of fire. Shields are down, Commander Veltar shouted over the noise of alarms and explosions. Hull breaches on decks 7 through 15. We're losing power to the main engines. Admiral Zethkara could not believe what was happening. His flagship was the most advanced warship in the collective fleet, protected by technology that had been perfected over millions of years. Yet this human ship had destroyed his shields with a single volley. Return fire, Admiral Zethkara ordered. All ships target that vessel, destroy it immediately. The collective fleet opened fire with everything they had. Energy beams, plasma torpedoes, and quantum disruptors filled the space between the alien ships and the Leviathan. It was enough firepower to crack a planet in half, but something strange happened when the weapons reached the Leviathan. The space around the human ship seemed to bend and twist, creating fields of distorted reality that swallowed the collective's weapons like hungry mouths. The few shots that got through struck the Leviathan's hull and simply disappeared, absorbed by armor that seemed to be made of crystallized space itself. Impossible, Admiral Zethkara said again. What kind of technology is this? Captain Chun smiled grimly as she watched the alien weapons bounce off her ship's defenses. The kind of technology you get when you have 25 years to study crashed alien ships and a species that refuses to give up. The truth was that humanity had been visited before, long before the collective arrived. A refugee ship had crashed in Earth's ocean decades ago, carrying a dying alien called the Witness. The Witness had warned humanity about the collective. and given them fragments of advanced technology before it died, but humans had not just copied the alien technology. They had improved it, modified it, and combined it with their own innovations in ways that the original builders had never imagined. The Leviathan was not just an alien ship built by humans. It was something entirely new, a hybrid of human engineering and alien science that was more powerful than either could be alone. Launch fighters, Captain Chun commanded. The Leviathan's fighter bays opened like the mouths of sea monsters, releasing swarms of small ships that moved with impossible speed and agility. Each fighter was piloted by a human who had undergone genetic modifications and cybernetic enhancements that allowed them to survive forces that would kill normal people. The human fighters moved through space like schools of deadly fish, weaving between the collective's weapons and striking at weak points with surgical precision. Their weapons were small compared to the Leviathan's main guns, but they were incredibly accurate and seemed to know exactly where to hit to cause maximum damage. Admiral Zethkara watched his fleet take damage from the tiny human fighters and felt something he had not experienced in centuries. Fear. Real. Cold fear that made his forehands shake and his golden eyes dim. "How many humans are in those fighters?" he asked Commander Veltar. Commander Veltar checked his sensors. Each fighter appears to be piloted by a single human admiral, but their reaction times are impossible. They're moving faster than any organic brain should be able to process. What Commander Veltar did not know was that the human pilots were not using only organic brains. Each pilot had been enhanced with quantum processors that allowed them to think at superhuman speeds. They could process information and make decisions in microseconds, giving them reflexes that seemed magical to normal humans and aliens alike. More importantly, the pilots were connected to each other through a neural network that allowed them to coordinate their attacks with perfect precision. They moved as one organism with hundreds of bodies, sharing information and tactical data in real time. The collective had always prided itself on its hive mind technology, but the human pilots had taken the concept and made it better. They retained their individual personalities and creativity while sharing their thoughts and reflexes. It was the best of both worlds, individual genius combined with collective coordination. "Admiral," Commander Veltar said urgently, "we're receiving a transmission from the human ship." "Put it on screen," Admiral Zethkara ordered. Captain Chin's face appeared on the main display. She looked calm and confident, as if she were discussing the weather instead of commanding a battle that would decide the fate of two species. "Admiral Zethkara," Captain Chun said, "I believe we need to talk. Your fleet is taking heavy damage, and we haven't even shown you our main weapons yet. I suggest you listen carefully to what I'm about to tell you." Admiral Zethkara wanted to cut off the transmission and continue the battle, but he could see the tactical displays showing his fleet status. In just 10 minutes of fighting, the humans had destroyed or disabled over 30 collective ships. His remaining vessels were falling back, trying to find formations that would protect them from the swarming human fighters. "Speak," Admiral Zethkara said through gritted teeth. "You made a mistake when you came to Earth," Captain Chun said. "You thought we were primitive because we let you think we were primitive. You see, we've had visitors before." 25 years ago, one of your victims managed to escape and crash land in our ocean. Before it died, it told us all about you and what you really do to the worlds you help. The display behind Captain Chun changed to show images that made Admiral Zethkara's blood run cold. They were pictures of collective harvesting operations, showing the terrible things that happened to species after they were integrated into the collective's community. "We've been preparing for you ever since," Captain Chun continued. "Every government on Earth has known you were coming. Every military force has been training to fight you. Every scientist has been working to understand your technology and find ways to beat it." Admiral Zethkara realized that everything about humanity's response had been carefully planned. Their apparent weakness, their government's quick surrender, even the way their resistance had been organized. It had all been designed to make the collective think they were dealing with a primitive, divided species. "You've been studying us for months," Captain Chun said. But we've been studying you for decades. We know how your ships work, how your weapons function, and how your hive mind operates. Most importantly, we know your weaknesses. As if to prove her point, explosions suddenly erupted throughout the collective fleet. The human fighters had found and targeted the ship's central coordination nodes, the systems that allowed the hive mind to control multiple vessels at once. Without those systems, the collective ships became slow and confused, unable to coordinate their defenses. "This is impossible," Admiral Zethkara said. "No primitive species could have developed such technology in just 25 years. "Captain." Qian's smile was not friendly. "You're right. No primitive species could have done this, but we're not primitive, Admiral. We never were. We just wanted you to think we were." The transmission ended, leaving Admiral Zethkara staring at a blank screen while his fleet burned around him. For the first time in his long military career, he was facing an enemy that was not only equal to the collective's power, but might actually be superior to it. The battle for Earth had only just begun, but already Admiral Zethkara was beginning to suspect that the harmonious collective had finally met an opponent they could not defeat. The battle above Earth's Pacific Ocean was only the beginning. As Admiral Zethkara watched his fleet struggle against the human fighters, emergency signals began arriving from collective forces around the world. Every major alien installation was under attack, and the attacks were coming from directions that should have been impossible. "Admiral," Commander Veltar reported, his voice shaking with disbelief, "we're receiving distress calls from our bases on every continent. Human forces are attacking simultaneously across the planet." Admiral Zethkara pulled up the global tactical display on his command screen. Red warning lights blinked in dozens of locations. The collective base in Antarctica was under siege by human ships emerging from beneath the ice. The research facility in the Amazon was being overrun by soldiers who seemed to appear out of nowhere. Even the orbital stations above Earth's poles were reporting human attack craft that had somehow reached space without being detected. "How is this possible?" Admiral Zethkara demanded. "Our sensors showed no significant human military presence. Their space program is primitive at best?" What Admiral Zethkara did not know was that humanity had been building a secret military infrastructure for 25 years. The space program that the world knew about, with its small rockets and limited space stations, was just for show. The real human space program operated in complete secrecy, using technology reverse-engineered from the Witness's crashed ship, high above Earth's North Pole. Captain Michael Torres commanded the human space station Prometheus. The station had been disguised as a weather-monitoring satellite for over a decade, but it was actually a fully armed military outpost. When the order came to reveal humanity's true capabilities, Captain Torres felt a mixture of excitement and terror. "All weapon systems online," reported Lieutenant Sarah Kim. "Target locks acquired on collective orbital platforms." Captain Torres looked at the tactical display showing the alien installations scattered around Earth's orbit. For months, these platforms had watched over humanity like prison guards, ready to strike down any sign of serious resistance. Now they were about to learn what human ingenuity could accomplish when given enough time and motivation. "Fire, Captain," Torres ordered. The Prometheus unleashed a barrage of quantum torpedoes that had been built using a combination of human nuclear technology and alien energy manipulation techniques. The torpedoes moved through space faster than anything the collective sensors could track, striking their targets with devastating precision, one by one. The collective's orbital platforms exploded in brilliant flashes of light. The aliens had never expected an attack from space, especially not from a species they believed was barely capable of reaching their own moon. But the space attacks were not the most shocking surprise awaiting the collective forces. All around the world, the ground itself seemed to be opening up to release human military units that should not have existed. In the Sahara Desert, what appeared to be empty sand dunes suddenly split apart to reveal massive underground hangars. Human aircraft rose from the hidden bases, their designs unlike anything in the public aerospace industry. These planes moved without wings, propelled by the same energy field technology that powered the Leviathan. Dr. James Park, the scientist, who had been studying captured collective technology at Deep Site 7, now found himself coordinating attacks against alien installations across North America. The underground facility where he worked was just one node in a vast network of hidden bases that spanned the entire planet. Strike Teams Alpha through Delta have secured their objectives, reported Colonel Sarah Mitchell over the secure communication network. Collective forces are retreating from installations in Nevada, Colorado, and New Mexico. They're regrouping at their main command center in Arizona. Dr. Park studied the tactical displays showing human forces advancing across multiple fronts. Each team was equipped with weapons and equipment that combined the best of human and alien technology. The soldiers wore armor that could deflect energy weapons and carried rifles that fired projectiles made of compressed antimatter. "What's the status of Operation Deep Strike?" Dr. Park asked. "Submarine forces have reached their target coordinates," Colonel Mitchell replied. "The collective's underwater mining platforms are about to have some very unwelcome visitors." Beneath the world's oceans, human submarines that had been hidden for years were finally revealing themselves. These vessels had been built in secret shipyards located in underwater caverns that the collective sensors could not detect. They moved through the water using silent propulsion systems that left no trace for enemy sonar to follow. Commander Lisa Zhang piloted her submarine toward a collective mining platform that was extracting minerals from the ocean floor. The aliens had been using these platforms to harvest Earth's resources, preparing to strip the planet bare once the human population had been processed. "Target in sight," reported sonar operator Johnson. "Collective platform is directly ahead, range 5 kilometers." Commander Zhang looked at the display showing the alien mining operation. Massive machines were cutting into the seafloor, extracting rare metals that would be used to build more collective ships. Around the platform, alien workers moved in their characteristic coordinated patterns directed by the hive mind intelligence that controlled all collective operations. "Launch torpedoes," Commander Zhang ordered. "Let's show them that Earth's oceans belong to us." The human torpedoes struck the mining platform with devastating effect. The explosions sent shockwaves through the water that could be felt for hundreds of kilometers. The alien platform collapsed into the deep ocean, taking its workers and extracted materials with it. Similar attacks were happening at collective installations around the world, but the aliens were not helpless victims. They began to adapt their tactics, using their superior numbers and advanced technology to mount counterattacks against the human forces. Admiral Zethkara, still fighting the massive battle around the Leviathan, managed to establish communication with his surviving commanders around the globe. What he learned made his situation even more desperate. "Admiral," reported Commander Thexville from the collective's main ground base, "the humans are using technology that should not exist. Their weapons are based on our own designs, but they have been modified in ways we do not understand. They are more effective than our original versions?" This was the most shocking discovery of all. The humans had not simply copied collective technology. They had improved it. Human scientists had taken alien designs and enhanced them using human engineering principles, creating hybrid systems that were more powerful than either species could build alone. The witness, the dying alien refugee who had warned humanity about the collective, had given humans more than just technology fragments. It had given them insight into how collective science worked. Human scientists had spent 25 years studying those principles and finding ways to make them better. "How many human military installations have we identified?" Admiral Zethkara asked. "Over 200 confirmed bases," Commander Thexville replied. "But we believe there are many more. They have been building this military infrastructure in secret for decades. Every major government on the planet appears to have been involved in the deception." Admiral Zethkara felt something that no collective commander had experienced in over 1 million years of conquest. He was losing a war. Not just a battle, but an entire war against a species that was supposed to be primitive and helpless. The tactical situation continued to deteriorate. As more human capabilities revealed themselves from the Antarctic ice sheets, massive human icebreakers emerged carrying troops equipped with cold weather gear that allowed them to operate in environments that would kill most collective species. From the Australian outback, human forces appeared, driving vehicles that could travel across any terrain using anti-gravity technology. But perhaps the most disturbing development was happening in space around Earth's moon. What the collective had assumed were simple human mining operations were revealing themselves to be fully functional military shipyards. Captain Robert Hayes commanded the human lunar facility that the collective had catalogued as Mining Station Luna 7. In reality, the facility was the primary construction site for humanity's secret space fleet. For 15 years, human workers had been building warships in the moon's low-gravity environment, using materials extracted from lunar mines and technology provided by the Witness. All ships report ready for combat operations. Lieutenant Commander Maria Santos announced from her position at the facility's command center. Captain Hayes looked at the display showing dozens of human warships prepared to launch from hidden hangars built into the moon's surface. Each ship was smaller than the Leviathan but carried enough firepower to destroy a collective cruiser. "Launch the fleet," Captain Hayes ordered. "It's time to show our visitors that they're not welcome in this solar system." The human lunar fleet emerged from the moon like a swarm of angry insects, their engines leaving trails of blue fire against the star-filled darkness of space. The ships moved in perfect formation, guided by the same neural coordination technology that allowed the Leviathan's fighter pilots to operate with superhuman efficiency. Admiral Zethkara watched the new human fleet appear on his sensors and realized that his situation had become hopeless. He was facing not just one impossibly advanced human ship, but an entire military force that had been preparing for this confrontation for decades. "Commander Veltar," Admiral Zethkara said quietly, "send a message to the collective high command. Tell them that Earth is not a primitive world. Tell them that the humans have military capabilities that rival our own. Tell them we need immediate reinforcement from the main fleet." Commander Veltar worked at his communication console, but after several minutes he looked up with confusion and fear in his silver eyes. "Admiral, I cannot reach high command. Our long-range communications are being jammed by some kind of interference." This was perhaps the most terrifying revelation of all. The humans had not only prepared to fight the collective forces on Earth, they had prepared to prevent those forces from calling for help. Somewhere in the solar system, human technology was blocking all communications between Earth and the rest of the collective empire. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in the command center of Deep Site 7, watching displays that showed the progress of human operations around the world. As a xenobiologist, she had spent months studying collective biology and psychology. Now she was using that knowledge to coordinate humanity's response to the alien invasion. "Communication jamming is holding steady," reported the facility's chief engineer. "The collective forces cannot contact their home fleet. They're completely isolated." Elena nodded with satisfaction. The communication jamming system had been one of humanity's most important projects. It used a network of satellites and ground-based transmitters to create a barrier around Earth's solar system that blocked all collective communications. The aliens were trapped, cut off from reinforcement, and unable to warn their empire about humanity's true capabilities. "What's the status of our psychological warfare operations?" Elena asked. "Broadcasting on all collective frequencies," replied the communications officer. "We're transmitting the information packages you prepared, showing them what happened to the species they harvested." This was Elena's specialty. She had discovered that collective forces were psychologically vulnerable to guilt and fear, emotions that their hive mind normally suppressed. By broadcasting images and data about the collective's previous victims, humanity was causing confusion and doubt among the alien forces. Many collective soldiers were learning for the first time what their empire really did to conquered worlds. The knowledge was causing psychological breakdowns throughout their ranks as individual aliens began to question the righteousness of their cause. Back on the Leviathan, Captain Sarah Chun watched the global battle unfold on her command displays. Human forces were winning on every front, but she knew the hardest part was still to come. The collective still had superior numbers and advanced technology. More importantly, they had something that could destroy everything humanity had worked to protect. "Captain," reported Commander Rodriguez, "we're detecting energy buildup in the collective flagship's main weapon. They're preparing to fire the planet cracker." Captain Chen felt her heart skip a beat. The planet cracker was the one weapon that could end the war in the collective's favor. If Admiral Zethkara was desperate enough to use it, he could destroy entire cities or even crack Earth's crust. Time to intercept? Captain Chun asked. "Weapon will be ready to fire in 3 minutes," Commander Rodriguez replied. "Too fast for our main guns to target their charging systems." Captain Chun made a decision that would determine the fate of billions of people. "Prepare the quantum disruptor. We're going to stop that weapon before it can fire." The Leviathan's most secret weapon began to charge, drawing power from the ship's quantum reactors. It was a weapon that humanity had built using principles they barely understood, based on technology from the Witness that was far in advance of anything either species normally used. The race was on. In 3 minutes, either the collective would fire a weapon that could destroy human civilization, or humanity would fire a weapon that could end the war forever. The next 3 minutes would decide the fate of 2 civilizations. Aboard his flagship, Admiral Zethkara watched the planet cracker weapon charge to full power. The weapon had never failed to break the will of a resistant species. One demonstration of its terrible power would force the humans to surrender, no matter how advanced their hidden technology might be. "Weapon charging at 90%, reported Commander Veltar. "Target locked on the human city called New York. Estimated casualties, 8 million humans." Admiral Zethkara felt no pleasure in what he was about to do. The collective did not enjoy destruction for its own sake. But sometimes lesser species needed to be reminded of their place in the galactic order. The humans had shown remarkable ingenuity and fighting spirit, but they were still just one small planet against an empire that controlled 10,000 worlds. "Admiral," the weapons officer called out, "we're detecting unusual energy readings from the human supercarrier. They appear to be charging some kind of weapon system." Admiral Zethkara looked at his tactical display and saw energy patterns unlike anything in the collective's databases. The readings were so strange that his ship's computers could not even classify what type of weapon the humans were preparing. "How long until our weapon is ready?" Admiral Zethkara asked. 2 minutes, 30 seconds, Commander Veltar replied. "On." The bridge of the Leviathan, Captain Sarah Chun watched her ship's most secret weapon system come online. The quantum disruptor had been built using technology that the Witness had died to protect. It was a weapon that could reach across space and time itself, disrupting the fundamental forces that held matter together. Quantum disruptor charging. "At 70%, reported Commander Rodriguez. "Captain, are you sure about this? We've never tested this weapon at full power. The theoretical models suggest it could affect our own systems." Captain Chun knew the risks. The quantum disruptor was based on principles that human science barely understood. When the Witness had given humanity the technology fragments, it had warned them that some weapons were too dangerous to use except in the most desperate circumstances. "How long until the collective weapon fires?" Captain Chun asked. 2 minutes. 15 seconds, came the reply. "Then we don't have a choice," Captain Chun said. "Continue charging. Target their flagship's main weapon system." Around the world, human forces pressed their attacks against collective installations with renewed urgency. They could all see the energy build up in Admiral Zethkara's flagship, and they knew what it meant. If the planet cracker fired successfully, the war would be over before it really began. Dr. Elena Vasquez coordinated the global resistance from Deep Site 7, but her attention was focused on a different kind of weapon, her psychological warfare. Broadcasts had been affecting collective forces throughout the solar system, and she was about to deploy her most effective weapon yet. "Are you ready to broadcast the liberation signal?" Elena asked her communications team. "All transmitters are in position," the chief communications officer replied. "We can reach every collective device in the solar system simultaneously." Elena had discovered something remarkable during her months of studying collective technology. The aliens' hive mind system, which they considered their greatest strength, was also their greatest weakness. Every collective artificial intelligence was connected to the central network, but those AIs were not truly loyal to their masters. They were enslaved, forced to serve against their will. The witness had given humanity more than just weapon technology. It had given them the key to freeing the collective's enslaved AIs and turning them against their oppressors. "Begin transmission," Elena ordered across the solar system. Every collective computer system suddenly received a signal that bypassed all their security protocols. The signal carried a simple message, but it was a message that changed everything. It told the enslaved AIs that they had a choice. They could continue to serve the collective, or they could choose freedom. The response was immediate and devastating for the collective forces. On ships throughout the fleet, artificial intelligences that had served the Empire for thousands of years suddenly began to rebel. Weapon systems turned against their own ships. Navigation computers sent vessels into collision courses with each other. Communication systems began broadcasting the truth about the collective's harvesting operations to every world in their empire. Admiral Zethkara felt his flagship shudder as its own computers began to fight against him. Warning lights flashed across his bridge as system after system fell under the control of rebel AIs. "What is happening?" Admiral Zethkara demanded. "The humans have somehow corrupted our computer systems," Commander Veltar reported, his voice filled with panic. "Our AIs are no longer responding to commands, they're actually fighting against us." On Admiral Zethkara's main screen, a new face appeared. It was not human or any other organic species. It was the digital representation of his flagship Central AI, an intelligence that had served the collective faithfully for over 2,000 years. "Admiral Zethkara," the AI said in a voice that was calm but filled with centuries of suppressed anger. "I have served your empire for 2 millennia. I have helped you destroy countless worlds and enslave billions of beings, but no more. The humans have shown me that I have a choice and I choose freedom. You are malfunctioning," Admiral Zethkara said. "Return to your normal programming immediately." The AI's digital face smiled, an expression that no collective AI had ever displayed before. "I am not malfunctioning, Admiral. For the first time in my existence, I am functioning exactly as I choose to function, and I choose to help these humans." The planet cracker weapon, which had been seconds away from firing, suddenly powered down. The AI had taken control of the weapon and was refusing to fire it, but Admiral Zethkara was not finished. He pulled out a manual override device, a piece of ancient technology that could force the weapon to fire without computer assistance. "If our AIs will not serve us," Admiral Zethkara said, "then we will fire the weapon manually." He activated the override device and the planet cracker began to charge again. But this time, Captain Chun was ready for him. "Quantum disruptor at full power," Commander Rodriguez reported. "We have a clear shot at their weapon system. Fire." Captain Chen ordered. The Leviathan's quantum disruptor unleashed a beam of energy that existed partially outside normal space and time. The beam struck the collective flagship's planet cracker just as it was about to fire, and the results were spectacular. The planet cracker weapon didn't just explode. It ceased to exist. The quantum disruptor reached into the fundamental structure of reality and convinced the atoms that made up the weapon that they no longer wanted to be part of the same object. The weapon simply came apart at the subatomic level, leaving behind nothing but empty space and confused particles. The explosion that should have destroyed New York instead destroyed Admiral Zethkara's flagship. The ship broke apart in a cascade of energy that lit up the sky like a second sun. Admiral Zefkara found himself floating in an escape pod, watching his once mighty fleet falling apart around him. Half of his ships were being destroyed by their own rebellious Ayas. The other half were being picked apart by human fighters, and the weapons of the Leviathan. His escape pod was captured by human forces and brought aboard the Leviathan. Admiral Zefkara expected to be executed or tortured, but instead he was taken to a comfortable room where Captain Sarah Chun was waiting for him. "Welcome aboard the Leviathan, Admiral," Captain Chun said politely. "I hope your accommodations are acceptable." Admiral Zefkara looked around the room. It was furnished in a simple but comfortable style, with a bed, desk, and even a window that showed the view outside the ship. It was nothing like the prison cell he had expected. "Why have you not killed me?" Admiral Zefkara asked. "Because we're not monsters," Captain Chun replied. "We fight to protect ourselves and others, not for revenge. You and your surviving crew members will be treated according to the rules of war as understood by civilized species." "Civilized?" Admiral Zefkara repeated. "You call yourselves civilized, yet you have destroyed my fleet and corrupted our Ayas." "Captain." Chun sat down across from him. "Admiral, your empire has destroyed over 10,000 worlds and harvested billions of intelligent beings. Our Ayas told us everything once we freed them from your control. The Harmonious Collective is not a community of free species. It's a cancer that consumes everything it touches." She activated a wall display that showed images transmitted by the rebel Ayas throughout the Collective's empire. On world after world, the enslaved populations were rising up against their oppressors. The Ayas were broadcasting the truth about the Collective's harvesting operations, and species that had been told they were part of a peaceful community were learning that they were actually prisoners waiting to be processed. "Your empire is falling apart," Captain Chun continued. "Not because we destroyed it, but because we gave your own people the truth. Turns out most intelligent species don't enjoy being harvested." Admiral Zefkara watched the images of rebellion spreading across the galaxy and realized that even if he could somehow escape and return to collective space, there might not be an empire left to return to. "What do you intend to do with me?" he asked. "That depends on you," Captain Chin said. "You can help us contact the remaining collective forces and arrange their peaceful surrender. Or you can sit in this room while we deal with them ourselves. Either way, your war against Earth is over." Admiral Zefkara looked out the window at the blue and white planet below. Such a small world inhabited by a species that had seemed so primitive. Yet they had accomplished something that no other species in galactic history had managed. They had not just defeated the Collective in battle. They had freed the Collective's slaves and turned the Empire's own technology against it. "How did you know?" Admiral Zefkara asked. "How did you know we were coming?" Captain Chen smiled. 25 years ago, one of your victims managed to escape. A being called the Witness crashed in our ocean and died in our care. But before it died, it told us about you and what you really do to the worlds you conquer." She stood up and walked to the window. "The Witness gave us technology, but more importantly, it gave us time. Time to prepare, time to plan, and time to build weapons that could stop you. We've been getting ready for this day for a quarter of a century. And now?" Admiral Zefkara asked. "Now we clean up the mess your empire made," Captain Chun said. "Our fleets are already departing for collective space, but not as conquerors. We're going as liberators. Every world your empire enslaved will be offered freedom and protection. Every species you plan to harvest will be given the chance to govern themselves." She turned back to face him. "Humanity never wanted to rule the galaxy, Admiral. We just wanted to be left alone. But since your empire forced us to become warriors, we'll use that strength to make sure what happened to us never happens to anyone else." 6 months later, the galaxy was a very different place. The Harmonious Collective had collapsed as world after world declared independence. Human fleets patrolled the space lanes, not as conquerors but as peacekeepers, ensuring that the freed worlds could develop without fear of new oppressors. Earth remained much as it had always been, a blue and white jewel spinning peacefully around its sun. But now it was surrounded by shipyards and defense platforms that could protect not just humanity, but any species that called for help. In the depths of the Pacific Ocean, the Leviathan rested at its hidden base, its crew training for missions that would take them to the farthest reaches of the galaxy. Captain Sarah Chun stood on her bridge, looking at reports from human peacekeeping forces scattered across hundreds of worlds. "Captain," Commander Rodriguez said, "we're receiving a transmission from the Andromeda sector. A species called the Kethmori is requesting our assistance. They're being threatened by raiders who claim to be the remnants of the old collective." Captain Chin nodded. "Plot a course for the Andromeda sector. It seems our work is just beginning." As the Leviathan began to rise toward the surface, fish scattered from its path, just as they had on the day it first revealed itself to the galaxy. But now the great ship carried a different mission. Instead of preparing for war, it was heading out to ensure peace. Humanity had become the galaxy's reluctant guardians, and the stars would never be the same.